Welcome to the Power of Great. I am your host, Matt Crane, and every week we come into your world, and the main mission is to help you recognize that your current situation is not your defining moment. We are so fortunate that every week we bring you information, interviews, people, CEOs, businessmen and women from all different walks of life, and they share in their journey to success. And today I'm so honored that I am sitting in the Power of Great studios with Amber Aziza, ASquared Coach, founder and creator. And you know, Amber's a devoted coach to millennial entrepreneurs, and her mission is to help them be happier, wealthier, and live a more extraordinary existence. You know, Amber's a bit of an entrepreneur rebel, and she's always done things a little bit different than most people. If her mentor, coach, or that guru said go left, Amber was going right, but it always worked out for her. You see, she's built and sold a successful consulting and coaching business all before the age of 30. And after spending 10 years as a training executive in the corporate world, Amber realized that working 60-plus hours every week only to go home with the same pay while making someone else more and more money just made no sense. And it was like being in a rat race where no one is the winner. Amber Aziza, welcome to the Power of Great.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, you know, Amber, I have really been, I've really been impressed with what you've been doing over the last really 3 to 4 months is when I really got to lock arms with Frank Salas. And he really introduced me to a lot of power players from a content standpoint. And I started to pay attention to you a lot on Periscope. And I'll tell you, what just stood out to me was you just have an unbelievable ability to connect with people immediately. And the way that you deliver your content, the way your presence, your professionalism, but the way that you go above and beyond for anyone, whether they're a client or whether they're someone that's just in your circle of influence, just really impressed me. So I think that our listeners right now on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher are really going to benefit from someone like you. And I want to jump right into it. I want to find out from you. One thing I loved about here when I was going on your website and I started to look is that I love shoes, shoe shopping, and building an amazing business while rocking awesome shoes. So what does your closet look like right now when it comes to shoes?
It's like 60% shoes, 40% clothes.
You know, and I think, you know, the reason why I wanted to start it off that way is because you really operate in life with a smile all the time. You have such an amazing personality. And, you know, talk to us about why that's important to you, why it's important to always have that smile on your face and to always deliver that happiness that you feel in your life to other people.
Absolutely. So for me, when I was growing up, my parents were very big on having positive affirmations and allowing me to really try things my own way. But my parents always had one rule. You can try it as long as you do it with a smile. And really, you know, what they were trying to instill in me is even if it doesn't work, be happy that you tried it. They wanted to take away that fear of trying. And so for me, I've always said, if you keep a smile on your face, you know, that will always change your mood. Even if you're having the worst day, if you sit and smile through it, even if you're crying, you sit and smile through it long enough that your brain will start to, it's almost like hitting reset. Your brain will be like, okay, this mood we're in right now isn't going to work for us. So let's pump it up a little bit. That, and for my clients, you know, when you're working with clients who have high stakes, so I work with a lot of clients who have 7 and 8 figure businesses. When they're telling me that, you know, there's this chaotic thing going on or this, you know, business altering event happening that they are wondering if they're going to make it out on the other end, the last thing they need is for me to sit there and go, yeah, now tell me more about that. No, they want that calm reassurance because that's why they're calling me. It's someone to tell them that, okay, we're going to get through this. Let's walk through. Let's have a plan. So I've just always really made it so that I have the smile on my face, even when I'm scolding my clients for not doing something that they should have done or doing something that they know they weren't supposed to do. I still make sure that I have that smile because that's that place of comfort that people have. And as a coach and a strategist, you're constantly pushing people outside of their comfort zone. So they need something to hold on to that makes them feel a little warm, and the smile does it.
Yeah, and I think that it's something so simple and something so everyday as a smile that we overlook as being that positive change that could really help push our mind into a different way of doing and being. And obviously for me, what I notice is that when I watch you is that it also spurs on some creativity for me. Is that, you always have this ability with that you just have a laugh that's so infectious for me, and I love it so much. And, when I'm watching you do your thing and you're performing and you're really putting out and you're just giving it all to the audience, I have to stand up sometimes and think, man, she's got me going. So, but, so talk to us about the transition from training executive, that corporate world, going into a business, and you talk about it on your website and in your stories how, hey, you've never ran a business before. So this was brand new water for you. So talk to us about that transition.
That was a tough transition. That was really hard for me because I left in the heat of a moment. I left in a passionate moment. We had just hit all of our goals, and it was because I had come in and made a lot of changes to the business and our employee side of things. I was the director of employee operations, which meant I focused on the employees. And so I came in and made a lot of adjustments to our employee setup and how we really worked with our employees and made people happier, which meant that people stayed longer and got us better results. And so the CEO, the owner of the company, he acknowledged it in this big executive meeting. Everyone's high-fiving each other. We're all getting our bonuses. It's going to be a great year. And as we're packing up, he comes to me and he says, what are you going to get with your bonus? And so I said, I think I'm going to get a new car. Like, I need a new car. I think I'm going to get a new car. And so I jokingly said to him, well, what are you getting with your cut? And he said, I think I'm going to buy an island. And I said, what? Like, you can buy an island? He's like, oh, it's not that much. It's like $3 million. I was just floored. And in that moment, I was like, he's getting an island and he shows up to work like once a month. I come every single day, weekends. I'm working till late. Like, I'm here every day, all day. And I'm getting a car, but he's getting an island? I was just like, this doesn't make any sense. So right there in that moment, I quit. I walked away. No plan, no nothing. No savings account because I had a very disposable income and I was very disposing of it. I was single, no kids. So I spent I was getting another check in 2 weeks. So for me, it was a very humbling transition because I didn't know what to do to build a business. I had no clue what a sales funnel was or a lead magnet or any of that. I just knew what I'd seen from behind the scenes of, these multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar with United Health Group organizations. And so I just started applying what I knew. I started networking my butt off. And I worked long hours. I worked longer hours trying to build my business than I did while I was working in my 9 to 5. I was working 18-hour days to get a little result, to get that right connection. And I knew that because my business was helping organizations, like large organizations, I knew that I needed to network. And that was what I really focused my energy on, was getting the right connection so that I could get the right meetings, so that I could get the right clients. So it was a lot of hustling and a lot of smiling my way through it, because there were oftentimes they'd ask me a question and I'm like, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to smile as I tell you that in hopes that you don't ping that against me. But when I booked my first Fortune 100 client, I was floored because I totally thought the meeting went terrible. And they were like, yeah, we want to go ahead and bring you in. And I was so excited. And I remember I got that first check for it. And it was like a kid in a candy store. It's like, I can pay my bills. But the transition up until that point, it was rough. It was about 6 months before I got my first client. And it was hard work, and it was a lot of sweat equity and a few tears along the way. But for me, it was a transition that I had to go through. I would never encourage someone to just jump without a plan. I always tell my clients, don't do it, make a plan. Have a strategy, have some savings. But for me and my personality type, I needed that. I needed to take the leap and have no net below.
Yeah, I knew that we were that I was drawn to you for a reason, because I did the very same thing. I left a 6-figure job literally on emotion and had no plan, no idea. We literally packed up and left Texas, and on our way home, my wife said, "So what are you going to do now?" And I said, "I have no clue."
No idea.
But that brings me to a great point that you brought up within that, is that most people now see the term entrepreneur and it's very sexy. It's very attractive. It's the buzzword out there. And I hear so many people talk about, well, I'm an entrepreneur. But yet I don't really believe if people in their heart understand that being an entrepreneur means you're going to give away more than you ever get in return. And, I want you to kind of lay out for our audience that 6-month transition that you went through and how you were giving, and you weren't seeing anything in return. What was really pushing you to continue to get out there and to continue to push forward?
Yeah. So the first 6 months, they were tough. They were really tough. I had to move in with my parents. So I had to leave Chattanooga, Tennessee, where I was living. I gave up my fabulous condo and moved back in. You hear people say I moved into my parents' basement. I didn't quite move into their basement. I moved into the guest room. And it was very humbling because my parents are old school. They will, they will support you and give you the nurturing that you need, but they will also, kind of give you are you going back to work yet? Or you should just go back to work. So that was hard. I switched my cell phone. So I switched from Verizon to Cricket. So I went and saved money everywhere I could. I wrote down all my bills and said, what can I cut? What can I change? And yeah, it was a little humbling for people like, oh, who's your cell phone provider? I'm like, Cricket. It was like, Cricket? Like, what? So I had to make those changes. But, for me, I never called myself an entrepreneur until I actually sold my first company and built the next one. Because those 6 months were such a struggle. And I wasn't focused on what title I was. I was focused on how am I going to make this business work, right? I was taking on a lot of financial risk. I had a $500 loan from my parents so that I could go and buy a mailing system, because I had found out from someone through the grapevine, like, yeah, you have to have a mailing system. You can't just mail them from your Gmail account. And I was like, what? Oh no, I need one of these. So I borrowed $500 from my parents so that I could pay for different subscriptions that I needed and hope that, okay, this will take me through a couple of months. But that was it. And it was just a lot of struggling, a lot of meetings. I remember I had the opportunity to meet with with an entrepreneur who owned a franchise of Dunkin' Donuts in Texas. And my friend said, I can get you the meeting. You got to get out there. And I was just like, how am I going to get the money for a ticket to Texas? And so I had a resume flash sale. I was like, I know resumes. I've hired people all my life. If you want your resume updated, I will charge you $150 to completely update your resume. And I got 15 people who did. And that was my ticket to go to Texas. To meet with this real entrepreneur, so that I could create a program for his employees. And I did it, and it panned out for me. And so being an entrepreneur, if you're going to take the title, it's about taking risks. If you're not willing to take risks, you're not an entrepreneur. The very definition of entrepreneur is a person who organizes and operates a business or businesses and is willing to take on greater than normal financial risks in order to do so. And if you're not willing to do that risk part, then you're not really an entrepreneur. And for me, I was willing to put everything on the line. Like you were willing to put everything on the line and take that risk. And so, when other people say, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, I kind of cringe because I'm like, really? Tell me about your journey. And they'll say, well, I built my business and I coach people. And it's like, what do you coach them on? Oh, well, I coach them on how to have a happier life. Okay. So what risks have you taken for that? And they're like, well, not really any, I just built my business. And it's like, is it successful? No, not really. It's like all of the elements of what makes an entrepreneur you don't have. So yeah, but for me at the beginning phase, I didn't care about what people called me. I just made sure they spell my name right on the check. So
I love that, and once again, for everyone out there on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher, I want to take a brief moment. We're live with Amber Aziza in the Power of Great Studios, but the folks at Rush Impact Marketing and my friend Jeremy Warner are so instrumental with the production side of our podcast. It's on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher, and I just really want to always give those guys and gals their just deserves, because they are a driving force behind what we do every single week. And once again, for everyone out there listening right now, Amber Aziza is absolutely laying down the goods. And I wanted to jump right back into something that you said, is that, you used another big buzzword that's happening right now, the word coach. Mm-hmm. Every time I turn around, somebody's a coach, or they've created this new word for a coach. And I think to myself is that, when I think of the word coach, I think of someone that has created something that has elevated themselves to a certain level and now has a responsibility to lead other people in a direction, whether they believe it's good or bad or not, that's going to be successful as a whole. And talk to me a little bit about your journey as a coach. And I don't call you a coach. I would really call you that entrepreneurial leader. But talk to us about your journey as a coach and the early stages, and now that you're very successful, what have you really learned through that process as you mentor and really help others mature into that field as well?
Sure. So I fell into coaching. When I sold my first 2 businesses, I was like, that's it. I'm out the business game. And then I got bored 3 days later. And a friend of mine who owns a business in Miami, he was struggling with a couple of his businesses, and he said, hey, would you mind if I flew you here? Would you mind staying for a couple of weeks and just kind of giving me an outside perspective of what I can change? He's like, I know you know business. You've been on the corporate side, and you've been on the, on the individual business side, the small business side. And he's like, so I want to know your opinion. So I did, and I was able to really just come up with, okay, you need to change this, you need to do that. You've got this person running this part. This person doesn't look happy. Why do you have them running that part? Move them over to something else, and it was quick. And for me, it's second nature. I can look at a business and figure out what the problem is, like a doctor can, examine a patient and figure out what the problem is. It just came naturally. And I say it's part of my millennial intuition, because we're always super critical of everyone else. And so it's easy for me to pick up on what's wrong and what can be improved. And so after that, another friend of mine who lives in Orlando said, all right, you're stopping in Orlando next. And so while I was there, she said, Amber, why don't you just do this as a business? She was like, there are so many people out there who are claiming that they know how to do exactly this, and they don't. She's like, but you know this. This is what you live and breathe. And so I started by simply posting on Facebook, because I said, I don't want this to be a full-time thing. I just want something, to kind of occupy my mind, to keep my brain sharp. And so I posted on Facebook, and I said, I would like to help 5 other millennial entrepreneurs with their businesses. If you're interested, shoot me a message. And I had 163 people message me. And I thought, this could be a problem. And so I took on my first 5 clients, which turned into 10 clients, which turns into 15 clients, which turned into a waiting list, which was a year long. And for me, I think what makes me different and sets me apart from other coaches is that, again, I don't worry so much about the title. I focus more on the impact, and I focus more on the results. I look at the business as it is and as it could be. And I think so many times people think, okay, I have to teach them the exact way to set up a funnel. I have to teach them the exact way to do this. But if I get a client and they have a business that a sales funnel in the traditional method doesn't work, then what? Then what do you do? And that's, I think, where a lot of coaches fall short, is that they don't know what to do beyond that, because they're what I call Google coaches that don't really have the experience of running a successful business, but they've taken classes or they've Googled it, so they think they know the answer. But the reality is, I've built and sold businesses. I've been on the executive side of, multi-billion-dollar corporations. So I know what will grow sustainably. And that's the other thing I think that sets me apart and that I focus on, is sustainability. I don't want to get you to 6 figures your first year. I want to make sure you have sustainable growth, because it's easy to hit 6 figures. It's not easy to keep doing it over and over again, right? So once the novelty of your business runs off, you have to have a sustainable plan. And a lot of people don't have that. And so I focus on building sustainability. When I decided that I wasn't going to do one-on-one coaching anymore, even my business, I stepped outside of it to coach it to say, okay, how do we grow from here? Because there are all these people who need help. I could have easily just walked away and said, I'm done. I don't want to coach anymore, so I'm not doing this anymore. Goodbye. But there were so many people who were just like, I need your help. Please don't. And so I brought in other coaches, but those coaches, the coaches I brought in, I made sure that they had corporate backgrounds, that they knew their side in and out. I brought in someone who's responsible for YoPlay's whole rebrand as one of my marketing coaches. I brought in Kaiser Permanente's top marketing strategist as our business digital strategist. So, I brought in people who, they don't just say, oh, I have this coaching certification. They actually know what they're doing. I brought in someone who's responsible for the life coaching for the U.S. Navy out in the San Diego base to be our life coach, because I wanted people with experience. For me, coaching isn't just about regurgitating what you know. It's about being able to apply it to real life scenarios. And the scenarios are all going to be different. And so if you can't do that, then you can't really genuinely help your clients. And so that was what's most important to me.
Yeah, I love how I really love that, because, something that was really, I guess you could say irks me a little bit is all these, what I call certified coaches. And, it kills me when I have some certified coaches that will reach out to me and find out, what we could do together. And I simply ask them, the first question is like, well, what businesses have you ran before? Mm-hmm. And it's very interesting, the answers that come back. And I always say to myself, in order to coach someone, you either need to know the game inside and out from the inside out, or you at least need to play the game.
Exactly.
And, so I love how you really laid that out there, that for you, it's really about the impact, not the title. And to me, that's what I think really separates coaches from that certified title. Mm-hmm. Is because most people want to go through that fancy class and get the picture with the business, with the person's name that's on the certificate, that you built their business while you're getting certified.
Right.
And then it's very difficult to find your way. So, let's talk about what you just said, is bringing in all these coaches to really be able to stay to your core, that one-on-one, that making sure people aren't left behind. What has that really been able to do for Amber and as far as the future growth of the business?
So that has allowed me to have freedom to focus on more group settings. So I love group settings. I think they're great. I think they're wonderful. With group settings, though, you're usually reducing the cost because you have more people and they're getting more of a group environment. They're not getting that tailored one-on-one experience. And I found that when I had one-on-one clients, I didn't have time to do group coaching. Like, I had zero time to do group coaching. So this is really allowing me to go back and focus on group settings. We have a mini mastermind that's 5 weeks long that we've been doing. And this particular group was exclusively for nonprofits, people who run nonprofits who wanted to see expansion but didn't know how to do it, but they can't necessarily afford to pay $15,000 to hire a business coach to do it. They could, but their investors, their donators, and might look at them a little weird, like, what did you just do with that money? And so what I have found is it's been so powerful, not just for them, but for me, to be able to really tap into, here are these businesses, because nonprofits essentially are businesses, that are creating purpose and that are giving back and are so amazing. It also allows me to focus more time on my personal nonprofit, which is focusing on foster kids. So it really is allowing me personally to take a step back from the business side and really do more heart work, which is, what's important anyways. But I still can see the impact of ASquared Coach through our in-house coaches, and the people who love us for that don't feel alienated.
Yeah, you mentioned your nonprofit, but that's something that most people might not know about you, is that you were also a product of that foster care as well. And I think it's so rewarding and refreshing how you were able to really find the family that you needed and have helped you become this amazing powerhouse that you are. And talk to us about this one experience that you went through recently about being a mom to 27 Chinese high schoolers, and how, what did you learn from that experience?
Yeah, that I learned so much from. We could do a whole podcast just on what I learned. But so one of my final clients with my last company, it was a boarding school that they wanted people who had experience with kids, and I had had a ton of experience with kids. A lot of the organizations that I worked with in college were focused on children based on military installations, and so I knew kids in and out. My mother owned a chain of nursery schools. So for me, it was like, I know this is my zone, right? And so I lived with 27 Chinese high schoolers who were coming over to attend school. And I learned so much about myself through that. I learned that I'm a little stricter than I thought I was. I always thought, when I have kids, I'll be the fun parent. I won't, apparently. I will not be the fun parent. But I also learned a lot that helped me in business. I learned patience. I learned the ability to pivot. Because it's like, oh yeah, we're going to go do this. We're going to go on this trip. Oh, we have 3 kids who are sick with pneumonia. I'm like, okay, I guess we're not doing that. Let's do this. Now we need to make a new plan. But I also learned the ability to listen, which was something that as an executive in the corporate world, you're supposed to do it. Everyone tells you you're supposed to listen, but really you listen enough for people to think you're listening. And then you tell them what you really want them to do. And then the meeting's over, right? But I had to actually listen to what they were saying or what they were asking so that I could give responses that were appropriate and that would help them. And that helped me a lot in my business because it forced me to slow down and actually listen, like, wait, what did you just ask me? And to actually be able to think it through. And it also gave me the ability to feel comfortable saying no. Nothing sucks more in life than having 27 high school teenagers mad at you because you have grounded the entire dorm because they decided that they were all going to go downstairs in the middle of the night and watch a movie after lights out. And so now the entire dorm is grounded and it's all your fault and they all hate you. So nothing is worse than that. So for me, the ability to tell someone no is like, okay, there's nothing you can do that's worse than what the 27 teenagers tried to do when I grounded them all. So, so it really gave me so many skills and so many experiences. It really, gave me compassion and the ability to see when someone may not be telling you the full truth, and not necessarily because they're trying to be deceptive, but because maybe they're trying to protect themselves emotionally, and to be able to tell the difference, which is really important, especially when you're trying to help someone with their business. When your coach says, let's talk about your finances, what's going on, people always want to paint a pretty picture. But the reality is if you're not giving me the real picture, I can't help you. So I'll tell clients, all right, share your screen with me, hop into your bank account, let's look. And then they're like, no, that's okay. But being with my kids, for that year helped me, figure out how to really convince them that what we're doing is what's best for them. So it was a neat experience.
Yeah, I have 2 children of my own, a 3 and a 5-year-old, and as a fellow millennial as well, every day I seem to learn something different about myself and just how important my mission and my journey really is to the future of the world. And, something that really impresses me about you as well is that I look at you and Chelsea Cross as really those 2 power players in the marketplace for millennials, because you went all in on millennials. There's no gray area. You have clients that you work with, big companies and corporations, but you truly believe that millennials hold the key to all the world's problems.
Absolutely.
And so right away, was that something you knew when you stepped out on your own, that it was millennials you were going to target? It was millennials you were going to help and impact?
Absolutely. I knew that right out the gate. I've always said, even when I was in my early 20s and in college, that if I were to build my own business, it would be focused on millennials. When I was in the corporate world, I was known as the millennial whisperer. Other companies would call my boss to see if they could borrow my brain for an hour, so that I could help them with a millennial issue. I literally would have, vice presidents dragging their new millennial manager into my office saying, he won't listen to me. How do I get him to listen to me? And I'm like, well, first of all, don't talk about him like he's not in the room right next to you. And so the ability to, I've always been really good at translating. So I have baby boomer parents. My baby boomer parents have never tried to be cool or hip or any of that. They've always been very straightforward. This is what they are. And so I learned at a young age how to translate what they're saying into what I can understand as a millennial. And so I just took that skill set in the corporate world. And so I knew that if I ever built a business, it would be focused on millennials.
That's fantastic. And that's one thing that I love is that I see too many millennial coaches who aren't millennials. And I wonder sometimes, like, how does that make sense? So it's very refreshing to have people that are not only in my peer group, but also really believe in the future of our particular generation. Mm-hmm. And to see you out here really doing that and looking at changing the lives of our generation is just powerful for me, and something that I'm just super proud to be able to share with you. So as we wrap up the show, I want to ask you one final question.
Okay.
So in regards to someone right now who is straddling the fence on living their dream or staying in their nightmare, what would you say is the one thing they could do tomorrow that could help them truly make that final decision and help push them off the fence?
Ooh. So I would say step one would be defining what the dream is for them. Because the dream could be that I just want to be CEO of this company that I'm working at that is currently my nightmare. And the second step would be figuring out what your nightmare, or where you are in your nightmare, why is it that way? What's making it bad? But then the next thing I would do is map out a plan, create a plan to get out of it. Make it a 90-day plan. Nothing's going to happen tomorrow. You're not going to make a plan tonight and tomorrow it's going to happen. It's not. Be realistic with yourself. And then also ask yourself, are you putting your best foot forward in your nightmare? Because that's a lot of the problem, especially us millennials. I will admit, we tend to complain about our situation, but we're really not putting our best foot forward in it to begin with, because we didn't want to be in it to begin with. And so now we're complaining about it because it's worse. Well, it's worse because we're not putting our best foot forward. So it's like this self-perpetuating cycle. So look at your situation, determine where you want to be, determine, am I putting my best foot forward now? Because if I'm not doing that now, what makes me think that when I get to where I want to be, that I'm going to do it? And so make sure you're putting your best foot forward. Make that plan of action of how to take the steps to get out. Find a mentor, someone who's done what you want to do. It's the biggest thing that I think a lot of people forget. Find someone who has done what you want to do. Don't go with someone who just knows a lot about what you want to do. Don't go with someone who studied a lot about what you want to do. Find someone who's actually done it, who's made it from where you are to where you want to be. And it may be inside your company, maybe outside your company. But find someone who can guide you and kind of give you that sage advice when you need it. But believe in yourself that you can do it. And if you're not putting your best foot forward now, start doing it. Because if you don't, then when you get to where you want to be, I guarantee you won't put your best foot forward there.
Wow. Define your dream. How powerful, but yet practical was that advice from Miss Amber Aziza. Amber, I know our listeners are going to be chomping at the bit to find out how they can get into contact with you and your organization, and how they can learn more about what you do. And so where can our audience and our listeners reach out to find out more about Amber Aziza and ASquared Coaching?
Absolutely. So to reach out to us, you can just head over to ASquaredCoach.com. It's just ASquaredCoach.com. And you can find me on social media everywhere at Amber_Aziza.
Perfect. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Every single week, we come into your life to simply look to enhance your journey by offering information that's going to really help you recognize that your current situation is not your defining moment. I'm humbled and honored that every week to be your host right here on The Power of Great. And remember this, success is not measured by what you step out of, rather by what you are committed to step into. And we'll see you guys next week.